Welcome to Real WW Talk. I am Erin.
I'm Candice.
And I'm Rikki.
Ladies, what's shaking? This week was a crazy week for me. I was out every single day this week.
You don't sound like you have any feelings about it. It's just
I think I'm still like on the high, but I'm crashing hard right now.
Yeah, you came in real hard. I'm Erin, and I had a hard week.
It's been a week. No, it's been a really good week, but I am whoosh. How are you guys?
I'm in great mood. My birthday is in 3 days, even though, as we know, I celebrate the whole month. So I've just been in birthday mode since August 1st, right? And just celebrating every single day.
I love
Just
it.
want people
It's
to know.
wonderful to celebrate you.
That's the sad thing. Like some people are very like, oh, I don't do the birthdays. I'm like, no, we're going to do birthdays for 31 days. Erin's like, maybe.
I was like, oh yeah, it is my birthday, isn't it? Yeah. Well, okay.
No, you're going to know. I called my mother. I was like, do you know what today is? She said, it's not your birthday. It's not. She said, yes, it is. I said, it is somewhere like my birthday. So she's already annoyed with me. I've called her 10 times already now. So that's okay.
Do you know what I said to my mom this year on my birthday? It's the first time I don't know. I get very introspective on my birthday. Do you get introspective on your birthdays?
I do, actually, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's almost like, but I think maybe Candice for you and me, because Rikki's birthday is at the beginning of the year in February.
Mm-hmm.
You and I are both kind of midpoint of the year. I'm July 3rd. You're, oh gosh, what day's coming? The 14th, 13th, 13th.
My mom's birthday too.
And your mom's birthday too. And I think it's something about like that halfway point. It's like this assessment of how did it go at the beginning of the year? Yeah. I've got a landmark here. What do I want for the back half of the year? That kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, happy birthday to me. But I was like, you know what? Happy birthday to you too, because you pushed that day. That was a struggle day for you, ma'am. Thank you.
Now that I'm a mom, when on Isaiah's birthday, I was like, yeah, happy birthday. You want to know what I was doing this morning? Like, you know. And I don't want to be that parent because I want him to like be able to enjoy his day. But I'm like, yeah, it was a really hard day for me today.
That's right.
Sewed up and pushed on down to the room. But he's like, you're gonna be that person. Like,
yeah, I was like, Mom, thank you, because you did it. You did it without AC. They couldn't even, because it was a holiday. They're like, trying to find the doctor, trying to get the doctor for her. Like it should have been like a comedy episode kind of a thing.
No. If you ever want to be humble, talk to my grandmother about like how all of her children were born. She's like, your mother was born upstairs over in the right bedroom, and your uncle was born over here, and we didn't have nurses. Like, it's always the extreme. Like, they didn't even have medicine then, and I had to just
walk uphill both ways.
Walk uphill and get my own water so that I could take these towels and have these babies. And you're like, you know what? You deserve all the credit, because I'm just happy I'm born in a time where there's air conditioning, because there's just no way.
Amen.
There'd be no children if there was no air conditioning.
No, I thought with all my different health things, like I would have been gone a long time ago. I would have been one of the ones that didn't make it.
Yeah,
I know.
They'd be like, "How'd she die?" Yeah, got a heat wave. Out of there. Nope, she just couldn't sleep at night. Like that was it.
That was it. She's too fragile. That one.
Her mother told her to sleep on the floor, and she just couldn't handle it. So I've always thought about that. But anyway, sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I wanted to ask you guys a question. I'm kind of excited not excited, but excited for what we're going to talk about, because I think this is, I love that we get a listener request for something, but maybe this will kind of play into it. If you had to, and you do, pick 3 words to describe yourself, what 3 words would you pick?
Gosh.
It's always easier to like pick words to describe someone else, isn't it?
Resilient. Not because I want to be.
Okay.
Amiable.
Okay.
That word. And caring? I don't know. Those are the
Okay.
mind.
Okay, those are good words. I think those are 3 good words that definitely
Yeah.
describe you.
What about-
Rikki.
I think resilient was also on my mind, but I think that that it's also a word that describes me. Um, I think I tend to be very peaceful for the most part, and I think that's something that I would like to think other people would agree with that. But not that they have to. That's a whole,
Mhm.
whole
See, there's
other thing.
peaceful right there. You don't have to
Right.
agree with me. Yeah.
Right. And I would say I think I'm a loving person. I think I'm loving and caring towards others. So I would go with
Yeah,
those.
I
Yeah.
agree with that. I agree with that.
What about you, Erin?
I honestly haven't even given thought to these 3 words. I wrote this question down, but didn't think yet because I knew I would want to do this in the moment with you. I think loyal, um, mm, steadfast,
Okay.
um, and peacemaker.
Hmm.
I could see that.
Those are good.
Uh,
Yeah.
I always feel like, especially because I'm a middle child and my name means peace, I feel like I'm always kind of bringing and like being middle line for different things, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Absolutely.
reason why I bring this up, and Candice, I know that you have Michelle's comment. We're going to be talking about self-sabotage.
Mhm.
And I love that Michelle has asked us to actually talk more about self-sabotage.
Mhm.
I think that when we sit down to actually know ourselves
Yeah.
and know who we are, or we think about these words or these things about ourselves, it helps give us context and see ourselves in a different light, that I have worth and I have value, and these are the things that I bring to the table. And it's kind of hard to it's hard to sabotage yourself when you start to see yourself as whatever these things are.
Yeah.
Because sometimes in that sabotage space, you aren't looking at yourself with value,
Yeah.
because we don't sabotage things that we admire and appreciate and respect.
Right.
Mm.
And I think that, well, and you set it up perfectly, because we did get a comment, and Michelle was in our Facebook community. If you want to find us, just search Real WW Talk on Facebook and you'll find our private group. Answer a few questions. Please answer the questions, because we get a lot of bots, and it's like
Mhm.
the ladies know I'm hardcore. I will deny you in a second if
That's right.
if you don't fit the criteria. But once you get in, you get in. But Michelle wrote, "Hi all, still catching up on all the podcasts during my morning walk with Poochie." Hey Poochie.
Hi,
I
Poochie.
I listened to the episode on self-sabotage this morning. I got teary-eyed as so many of the things mentioned mirrored my own struggles. I would like to request another episode on self-sabotage, please.
Now, the
So,
last time we talked about self-sabotage was back in 2021.
Yeah.
So, I
because
mean,
I was like, what did we say? I was wondering if it was more from like the external or internal, but it's a topic that is just, there's so many ways that you can approach discussing it, you
mhm.
know.
Mhm.
And Erin, you brought up one of the best ways, which is, when we do engage in self-sabotaging behavior, what does that mean about how we view ourselves, or the respect that we have or don't have
Mhm.
for ourselves?
Mhm.
Because I think that when you think of the word self-sabotage, and when you think about self-sabotaging behaviors, what immediately comes to mind for you in your own journeys? That's my question I want to put out to the two of you.
Mhm.
Ooh.
What does that look like on your journeys?
So for me, I think um it looks like excuses for, I'm not going to meal prep because I'm going to give myself a break, or I'm going to give this time back to myself. And not to say that we shouldn't have self-care, that we shouldn't give ourselves a break, but if it gets in the way of doing something that could help my future self. And also if it's at the expense of like, maybe I gave myself that time, but I still had another hour during the day where I was scrolling through my phone or just procrastinating, like, then I'm really not helping myself. I'm not prioritizing my time. So I think sometimes it's those excuses for, other things or why I didn't do something to help myself.
Yeah, I kind of look at it as intentionally blocking myself. Choosing to do things when I've said that I want to do this and have this result, and then 5 seconds later doing the exact opposite. Why am I not setting myself up for success and doing things intentionally to work against my success? And that might be not following through on healthy habits or choosing to revisit old patterns because I'm tired, I'm lazy, what have you. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think mine is when I'm starting to give into that perfectionistic kind of mindset, and it's taking over. Like, I have to journal this exactly right, or else I'm a failure, and I'm gonna just let the day go away because I made this mistake. Those are all when I'm giving into perfection, but really that's self-sabotage, because I know perfection is not attainable. Right. So to actually seek it is seeking to set myself up for failure. And, I think we all really gave some good ideas, but when you have those things that are happening, because I think for me, I'll speak for myself. I can start to see myself go down the self-sabotage route. Like, especially if I'm in a good kind of groove, and it may be just one day or one decision that I made that I didn't turn around and immediately address, that becomes one more. So when we talk about it, because I think a lot of our community can relate to, and to self-sabotage in one way or another, but what we don't talk about is how do we stop the pattern? How do we stop it in its tracks when we see ourselves doing it? Is it internal? Is it external? What are some of the ways that you all have found, to, when you're seeing yourselves do the things, to turn the corner on that?
For me, it becomes just, what's the next right thing at this moment? Because trying to do all of the things for some reason will feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But it is what in this moment needs to be the next right thing, whether it is okay, here's a great example from like 2 weeks ago. I made granola bars. Really bad choice. Really bad thing for me to do, because I love starchy carbohydrates and I love starchy sweet carbohydrates. And these granola bars are fantastic. And I could easily sit down and eat the entire pan. And I found myself on my third granola bar of the day. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Having this in the house, first off, you made this and you actually thought that you could do this. You thought wrong and you knew that you were thinking wrong. Now you're on your third one and everything in you is craving a fourth one. This needs to stop right now. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go brush our teeth, because I needed to get the taste of the granola bar out of my mouth, because it was making me want another one because of the sweetness and the goodness from it. And I did that. It was like I had to put a whole careening halt on it. Then the next step was, I need to package it up and I need to take it and give it away. Like, I can't have the rest of them because this is not a good thing for me to have in the house. And I packaged them up and I drove to work. And I put them on our little community counter where I know other people would eat it, because it was a good, healthy treat. It wasn't like I felt bad about putting on the counter, like I was sabotaging someone else kind of thing. That's one thing I definitely don't want to do, is ever do something that I know would harm someone else. But I knew that these would be okay. They just weren't okay for me. So that's what I mean when I say do whatever that next right thing is in that moment. And for me, it was something as silly as brush my teeth, but then get it gone.
Let me ask you this, Erin, because you've shared and been very candid here on the podcast about your struggle sometimes throughout the years, depending on the season with mental health, like, and feeling. Do you find that it's harder for you to do that behavior that puts you back on the right track when you're not feeling good about you? Because,
absolutely.
You started off with, how do we define ourselves? Like, what are the different words that we use? I know I feel that it's very difficult to engage in the behaviors that get me back on the right track when I'm in a place of self-loathing for whatever reason, whether it be true mental health or just, for me, it's struggling with unforgiveness. Like, I have a hard time forgiving myself I was listening to you when you said, how could I have, who I knew better than to make those granola bars. Why would I have even brought it in the house? Like, that narrative is one that I do a lot. And when I'm stuck there, it's hard for me to then do the next right thing.
Yes. Yeah.
The loop.
I think that's such a great point, because I'm in a good place to not loop. If I was in a different place, I would just keep eating the bars, because what does it matter? What does it matter anyway? What I shared several episodes ago, like, I was down at my lowest weight most recently within the past 2 years. And somebody looked at me and told me that I was a big girl, and that just wrecked me, because it was like, man, I've been doing so well. I'm still, even at I was at what I consider like my happy weight, my consistent happy weight that I had been for years. And someone still looked at me and just went, "You're fat." Like, that was the equivalent of it. And that tripped me up for a while. So that would have been something like, well, why bother? Why bother? And that's having to go back, which is still a faulty thinking.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, why bother? But at the end of the day, it's about, why wouldn't I bother for me? Why wouldn't I bother for me? Why does that person's comment wreck me so hard? Yeah. And I have to really actually get curious and dive down deep about why that bothered me so much that I was willing to let it derail my progress. We talked a couple weeks ago about protecting our progress. Those are those little moments. But when I'm in that kind of a phase, as I've been, here and there, I just happen to be in a healthy spot this time and could put the brakes on it.
That's very reflective. I mean, I think a lot of times too, fear is a motivator to sabotage, and I think we're afraid of, what if I do all this hard work and I don't get what I want, or I don't feel better about myself? Because we know that a lot of times getting to the goal weight doesn't mean that all of our problems are solved in life.
You take you with you wherever you go.
Exactly. The same struggles, the same, self-deprecating feeling. We have to work on those first. It's not the other way around. So I think a lot of times the sabotage comes from that. And then a lot of times there's internal narratives and scenarios that I've played in my head that, my worst case scenario with my weight would be if someone called me overweight or said, "Oh, you look terrible. You look fat in that. Why would you wear that? Why would you, or something that makes me feel bad about myself." And if something like that does happen, I'm going to remember that more than I'm going to remember the 10 people before that who said I look nice, or that I'm a nice person, and all those things that really matter. But I'm so focused on the negative.
Which, Rikki, to that point, when that person had said that to me 2 months prior, somebody asked me out in a grocery store parking lot, and it was not a creeper.
Oh, wow.
I said no, but like, you would think 2 months ago, somebody actually found value in me. And then 2 months later, somebody else didn't. And I let
the first thing you mentioned was the negative. Right.
Instead of still living off the high of a first person in however many years.
It's been so long.
It's been so long. My gosh.
But I think it's but I mean, I know we've talked about this before, but it's just because it amplifies something that we maybe at our core believe about ourselves,
The
right?
confirmation bias.
That confirmation
Mhm.
bias.
Mhm.
And I think that to me is also a piece of self-sabotage that isn't always spoken about, because when we start to come out and we're acting and doing things that show us in a way that we don't really truly buy into for us, that's for me when the self-sabotage can get really high. Like if I don't really agree with the fact that I am a healthy person or that I'm a person who has balance in my life, even if I'm acting that way, sometimes we start to meet our own internal standards. So I'm like, I'm not really that. So I'm going to start doing things to go back to what I really believe, which is that I'm not a person who's balanced. So I'm not going to act like a balanced person, even though I want it. So that's why when I've been in therapy, my therapist has said, that's why we're working on with the affirmations and stuff. You have to start believing that you are actually these things, and not just, yes, the actions are going to prove it, but if you can't even see it here, you're going to meet what you see, right? And because you're trying to make it work, you're trying to make it all go together. And that really hit me, because I'm like, but why would I want to not see myself as thin or not to see myself as healthy? Why would I want to see myself as sick? That doesn't make any sense. But it's been sometimes just for so long.
Yeah.
You know,
It's what we know of
it's
ourselves.
what we know.
What we've rehearsed.
It's what we rehearsed. And that's why when you hear yourself doing it, it's like turning on the tape. It's on autopilot. You're like, I know this story. Yep. Yeah. I know what I'm going to say here. Up. I know what that's going to happen here. And as much as you want to turn it off, there is something that I think, if we're honest, and you all tell me if you agree, there's something comforting about the familiarity of the things even that we don't like. Like it's like, but it's comfortable. Like I know that.
Well, you can't surprise me because I already know that about myself.
I already know that.
Yeah, you can't hurt me. I already hurt myself enough. You think you can hurt me with that?
Yeah.
Actually, yes, you can.
Yeah. It's like, don't buy another journal. You don't need another one. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and, I'm gonna do it because I think that this fresh start is really going to happen with this one, when I know that's not true. Like it's going to end up being that I make a mistake and then I'm going to need another one. Like it's a cycle,
What are some ways, so I know we've just kind of loosely talked about it, but like when you think about how do you get yourself out of that self-sabotage? Because there are times where, so like I had that very acute moment with the granola bars, but then there have been where like, this is months in, and I'm trying to think of, this is years ago. My weight had climbed and I think I was about 15 pounds away from my original starting weight. And I just felt all of the shame, and I felt all of it. And yet I couldn't get I felt like I couldn't get myself out of where I was to start doing the right things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt like I was stuck and like, this is, I think this is who I am, and this is what it'll always be. I think life is always going to be like this.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that? Does that resonate at all?
Yeah. I was on one of the virtual meetings, and a coach was talking about that. How do you climb out? And I forgot what the name of the book or the person she referenced, but she was talking about a ladder, and how when you're trying to pull yourself out, you have the rungs on the ladder. And sometimes you just, even going the first one, trying to get your foot on the first one, you keep falling down. And you're like, I can't even get up the first one. She said, but we need to move. All you need to do then is move it down even further, closer to the ground, so you can take even that micro step. And she said, the challenge that we have is we don't praise ourselves enough in the moment that we do even the micro things, so that rung matters to get you to the next one, to get you to the next one. We're trying to take too big of a step than what we're ready for. And I had to sit with that. I thought that was actually a very true statement. Like, I think that when we think about getting back on track or getting out of self-sabotage, it's this big grandiose thing, but it could be just something as simple as, I'm just going to drink, a cup of water.
Mhm.
And that's all I can do today. And I'm going to celebrate it and go, look, that was something that I did that was good for me. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to give myself a sticker. I'm going to make this a thing where I am saying that not only have I turned it around, but look, I did this one thing. And then we add on maybe one more thing. I'm going to go to bed tonight. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to put the phone in the other room. Look, that's two things. I drank a cup of water and I put my phone in the other room.
Yeah.
All of it matters because I think for me, I'm so stuck in the negative cycle. I can't believe, look at what I did. I made the granola bad, 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 bad. To like flood myself with little, just very tiny wins.
Well, and do you notice what that really is? Is that's kindness.
It's kindness.
It's actually kindness to yourself.
Because when I use the words when we described ourselves, weren't we describing ourselves really about how we are also to others? You know, like if I were to say, I'll say, when I said I'm amiable, I wasn't thinking about how I am to me. I was thinking about how I am to others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm that way all the times with myself.
Am I loyal to myself? Because I'm going to tell you something. I will trade me in a minute for some French fries sometimes.
Yes.
That's what those choices are.
Right. That's why I wanted us to kind of start with that exercise to think about ourselves. And I think we all start to think about ourselves in relation to others. And then we've got to peel back the layers of those things are still true about us. And then what is it that we really think about ourselves and addressing those pieces? But those things are true in both ways. And if I am loyal, why am I not being loyal to myself? If I am steadfast for other people, why do I feel like I'm constantly blowing back and forth in my weight journey? Yeah.
I mean,
right? Like I think that is so fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to some of the people pleasing. Like I'm so willing to impress other people that I'm not people pleasing myself. I don't care as much about my opinion of myself, or I'm not as aware of how I can change it, or I'm not making the efforts that I need to make to change it. And I think that's the first place to start, is to say, I'm not going to speak to myself this way anymore. I'm not going to treat myself this way. I want to treat myself how I want others to treat me. Talk about treating others the way you want to be treated, but how about treating yourself the way you want? You know, the same thing, but just flipping it on its head and saying, I'm going to be kind to myself, and I'm not going to reflect myself in this negative way, even to myself.
Yeah. And I hate to, I don't know why this keeps coming to mind when I think about Isaiah. I think about my 4-year-old and how we're conditioned to sometimes protect like the young, right? But if we were in our younger version of ourselves, and we were responsible for nurturing young Erin, young Rikki, young Candice, and there's nothing we wouldn't do if they were right there, right? Because you're like, I'm going to protect them from the world. I'm going to make sure that they have the best food, or they're going to do the things. I see what I do with. Somehow when we get older, I think that kind of dissipates. Like we don't have that same level of responsibility for ourselves that we did, or that we may have hoped that others had for us when we were there, And that's just a deep thought, because I mean, I when did we stop caring to the level that we need to keep ourselves safe? Like you said, when did we stop thinking that we deserved the healthy food, that we deserved the movement, that we deserved the good life? Somewhere it got flipped. Something happened. And
I think that's where we have to look at external validation again, because I think about what I've heard so many people say about teachers and how when did I stop believing I could be a doctor, or when did I stop believing I could be a scientist or an astronaut? Unfortunately, a lot of times it's an adult or maybe a teacher who said, when the kid was 5 years old, you'll never be this, or you'll never be that. And it goes back to us remembering those negative things over all of the other positive influences and interactions in our lives. We remember the negative and we internalize those before we internalize everything else.
And
You gotta flip that.
I remember, back to that version of myself that was 15 pounds away from goal weight, who was just so ashamed of herself. I remember I had a coworker that was acting inappropriate towards me many years ago, and I know I've shared that story with you ladies, and and that wrecked me for a very, very long time. It was very hard for me to let that go and put it in the past. And I'd heard, and I think I shared this, I'd shared about this on Real WW Talk many, many episodes about the definition of forgiveness. Is two of the key components is I will not rehearse the hurt and I will not nurse the hurt. And I think a part of that self-sabotage for ourselves is when we are deep in those moments and trying to get out, that we are not nursing the shame and rehearsing the shame around whatever that may be. And it is literally sometimes in the moment as you find yourself doing it, going, you got to pull the brake on that, put the brakes on and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to nurse my hurt around this. And I'm not going to keep rehearsing all of the things that I've done to get here, because what's done is done, but I'm going to move forward now. And sometimes it's just saying that concretely to yourself. And I remember employing that while I was getting on the treadmill and starting out at a 2.5 when previously 4.0 was my warm-up walk. And I can't even approach 4.0 or I'm going to roll right off the treadmill. Like you start thinking about what you gave up, where you were, but this is where I am now. And I just, I can't keep rehearsing. I can't keep rehearsing where I was. This is it. I'm not going to beat myself up anymore. We're going to move forward. And I'm grateful that I can walk at a 2.5.
And I think that what you're saying is there is a verbally saying it and following it up with an action is because I think that's important. The action is what gives you, in addition to the statement, the mojo to start to see that like, this isn't just empty. This is intentional, because in taking out, I wish I can't, it is over now. Here is the actionable thing that I'm doing, no matter how small you may think it is, that is showing myself, not anyone else. That is me showing me that I'm serious, because
sometimes having to let go of it, we aren't ready to let go of it.
Right. We're not, but are we able to be honest enough to say that?
Right. And so the question that you have to ask yourself is, how much longer do I want to hold on to this? And will me holding on to this help me? How is this going to improve my life by continuing to hold on to this? Because sometimes we don't feel like taking action. It's easier to stay here than it is to have to go do the things to make the action. That's harder, but we can do hard things.
Yeah.
Having to confront ourselves with
hearing yourself. What is that? You're sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
That's when it ends. When you're like, I cannot do this one more day. Yeah. I love this topic. Honestly, I understand why you wanted it around 2 or 3. It's a deep one. It's deep because it hits us all at a point. I think we all have a point in our journey where that self-sabotage behavior just rears its ugly head.
Yeah. And I can picture there are people right now who are listening to it who came into summer with highest of intentions and going, okay, this summer I'm going to lose the weight because I'm going to be doing more activity. We've got all of this fresh fruit, all of this, fresh vegetables. And so I have it made in the shade. And now we're on the cusp of looking fall in the face. We're closer to fall than we are to summer. And feeling the shame that time has gone by and nothing has changed.
And the thing I'd say about that too is my prayer for myself, us, and those who are listening is, how do we reframe that to say, look at how much time we have left
Yes.
to do, instead of look at how much has gone by and this. Look at the opportunity. If I start right now, I can still, we have a whole month of August. We are, we got all this time. Like this is, that to me feels better than talking about what we've lost.
Yes.
A much better starting point.
Yeah.
Keep talking, ladies. I'm counting something up.
Oh, so, but I mean, like I said, it's a topic. You're never really going to have a full answer about what everybody, I think, needs to do to get themselves to their best version and healed from all of the internal thoughts, because it really is mental. All of this is a mental game that we're playing with ourselves, like how we view things. So and I think once I recognize that too, there is some help that's helpful to know that it's here. You know, it's something that can change just as quickly as it came, just as quickly as a thought came. You can unagree, and do something different.
So I was just counting up how many weeks there are left in the year. I think that it's 19, so I've rounded it up to 20. But if your motivation was to lose weight and you lost 1 pound a week, what's 20 pounds from where you are now? Would that make you happy?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you lost a half a pound a week and you were 10 pounds less by the end of the year, would that make you happy? So while we are where we are right now, but if we're looking towards the future, and maybe your goal right now isn't weight loss, maybe your goal is to increase strength or increase activity, or maybe it's by the time the end of the year comes, you have a really good settled nighttime routine. What are the small incremental wins for you? The small incremental things where you can go, okay, here we are. This is where we are. What are those 3 things that I'm thinking about myself that somehow I've managed to do the exact opposite of for me? And I'm going to be those 3 things for me. What does that look like? And what does it look like for me to feel the freedom of not rehearsing that shame or that hurt over this and not nursing it? What would that feel like? And is that what we want? And if that's the case, what's the first next right thing that we need to do to get there?
And I don't know, I have a feeling that forgiveness is the big first thing, is forgiving yourself. It all starts there.
Yeah.
Yes. Right? Showing grace to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh, what a good conversation, ladies. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for asking to talk more on that. We hope that helps. We really do. And hey, if you, we would love to hear your thoughts around this. Maybe did this resonate with you at all? Are there other tips or techniques that you employ to help yourself move forward and to get out of self-sabotage? We would love to hear them. Join us in the Real WW Talk Facebook group or on YouTube. We'd love to see comments there from you so that we can share that with the rest of the community. When you share, you help other people find themselves honestly and truly in these things. So we're very grateful for you for participating and for engaging and helping yourself and helping others too.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Well, we wish you a great week and we'll see you next week.
Bye.